Hey, this is Angela with this week's Living the Chef. What an amazing time we're going through, right in the middle of this window between, the 12-12-12 and the 12-21 thing. And many are saying, well, what is this? What truly is this? And there are so many different things, so many different opinions and everything else. But I'm just going to speak to what I have experienced and what I have seen in the past week. I had an amazing experience on 12-12 where I was shown, and I was with a couple other people, where we were shown the door to the old world closing and the door to the new one opening up. And in stepping forward into the new world and saying we embrace the new world, it was also part of it to commit to standing 100% in our own divinity, in our own truth. And in doing so, that's standing 100% in our own responsibility. Amazing. And it's just beautiful. And we get to play. And once we do that, we can play and we remember our limitlessness, and we can get past all of the drama that the ego drags us into. And we've forgotten so much about the fact that we do have all the power within us. We have done separation to the extreme. And, look at this. In the highly industrialized countries like the United States, where we have like all the internet and we have phones and we have, we're connected 24/7, but yet we're not really connected. We disconnect ourselves because we have so much information coming into us that we don't want to stop. And, we feel like we can't stop and focus in any one area. And I sort of laugh when people say today things about like, oh, I'm ADHD or whatever. And I'm like, okay, really? Because the whole world right now is ADHD. But we don't focus on anything. And what we have gotten into the habit of doing is this disconnection, this feeling of disconnection and separateness. And this is the apex of that. And what that means is we've done it to death and we're done with it. Now it's time to come back around. And part of standing in our divinity and standing in our truth is the realization and remembrance that we are all one. We're all the same. And so you are a part of me and I am a part of you. And there's a reason that people all come into your lives and situations come into your lives, that we are externalizing all the lessons and facets of us that are coming up to be healed and resolved and released. And we don't even realize, because it's become so subtle, it's become so ingrained, that we don't realize how far we've gone down the path of allowing ourselves to be disempowered. So there are a couple of messages in here. There are a couple of really important points to talk about. One is this feeling of disconnection. And we are getting the call to come back together. We're getting the call to unify. And what's happening is, if we look around us, it seems like we are more separate and more polar, on opposite ends. So many people are fighting on politics. People are fighting about this, and classes, different classes and income brackets and countries, and look at all of the stuff, all of these polarities of who's right and who's wrong and all this kind of stuff. Well, what happens when we start saying you're me and I'm saying you're wrong? Part of the realization is there is no wrong, that it is just all a different part of the experience, or all lessons that have to do with this. So the more we refuse to look at it, the more we continue on with our separation, the more we are going to be manifesting. The more we manifest these kind of situations, like look at what's happened in the past several years, like the tsunami in Japan. There's just been earthquakes everywhere. There's like one riot shooting after another. There's one shooting after another. There are riots. There are just people leaving and transitioning out of the planet in big groups. And you know what? It was all volunteered, because we set this up for ourselves, because we said we're going to get to this point and we're going to be done with it, but we're going to be so lost in it that we need reminders that we are all connected, that we're all one. And one of the biggest ways for the ego to be able to do that is to create catastrophes. And we do that, what happens? Look at what happened with the superstorm Sandy, right? Earlier this year. It flattened out everything. So it equalized everyone and brought them back together. Yes, and then there are some who have not gotten the lesson. Some who have gotten even more polar from it. And guess what? Something will happen again. Until we come back around, it's time for us to come back around and realize we are all connected. And I'm not saying to sacrifice yourself for others. In fact, it's just the opposite. We're at the point of fully stepping into our divinity means taking full 100% responsibility for me. And that includes taking care of myself, learning how to heal myself, realizing what it is that is unresolved in my life to resolve, and taking control of the wheel and saying, I don't need to depend on others to tell me anymore what's the matter with me or what I need to do to move forward. It is time for me to fully step into my truth, fully step into my divinity, and I can do it. I have that power. We all do. That is a huge lesson for us. It's a huge, huge lesson. And even within the spiritual world, you have people who, you start working together, and I work with clients and everything else, and there's a point where you have to say, you have the tools, and I love you. And the only way for me to show you my love is for you for me to tell you, go ahead and use those tools. And I'm here to support you with love and compassion and support. But it is time for us to pull up our bootstraps and get on with it. And know, because part of getting on to the next level in this evolution has to do with taking on our own divinity, taking on the realization and remembrance of who we truly are, and that we are all divine. All of us are limitless. And it's a big, big task. It scares so many of us. It takes a lot of clearing work, because then we say, well, wait a second. If we are truly the divine, we're all part of the oneness. We planned all of this? Like, really, we planned all of this? And the ego says, oh my God, how terrible are we to plan all this? Things like the shootings and these big, natural catastrophes and people killing each other and leaving unmasked. We did, because we keep on getting tapped on the shoulder and we ignore it. And we get tapped on the shoulder again and we ignore it. Because it's uncomfortable for us, because the ego says, oh, you can't do that. Somebody else has to do it for you. Somebody else has to do. You have to go to a psychic and get a reading, or you have to go to a healer and get healed. You have to go to a doctor and get healed. We have so disempowered ourselves. We've forgotten that we don't need any of it. It is all part of what's within us. And so what's coming around is this huge period of time, this doorway has opened up of saying, it is time. We're ready to go. We're ready to go to the next world. And to do that, though, we have to resolve this disempowerment. And my understanding is going to be much, much more fun at the next level. So it's just resolving, getting rid of our stuff. And look around us. Look at how much collectively, individually, so much muck is coming up to clear right now. And it's all good. You know why? Because if it's coming up and it seems like a mess and it's all dirty and mucky and all mixed together, guess what? That's because it's come up to the surface to skim away. And the key is to learn how to stand in our own truth and take our own power back and get rid of it ourselves. Resolve it and release it. I knew somebody who just did it through discussion, has done it through discussion and through being open. And it's just shifting the way we see the world. It's shifting the way we see ourselves. And in doing so, then we'll have much more grace and ease of this transitionary period. Part of these things that happen, that bring us together, are of the purpose for things for us to come together. There is nothing unplanned. Even shootings and all that kind of stuff, it is all agreed upon at the higher levels. And when we can accept that and thank those parties, all of the parties involved, even what we consider the perpetrator, as well as those who get killed, we thank them for that lesson, for volunteering to be a part of that. And we can send the love and healing and support to those families that all and friends are all related to all of these things. And I'm not even just talking about people will think right away they're going to go right to this thing that happened in Connecticut last week here in the United States. But it also happened on the same day on the other side of the world in China with a different weapon. And it's happening all over the world. It's time for us, and we're bringing this up to the surface to look at it, saying, look at this, we are all one. It's time for us to connect. And in connecting also, we can trust that we're all so powerful that we can stand in our own truth. So it's sort of like this two-part thing, okay? And I do talk to a lot of people about these kind of mass situations and everything, and nothing is an accident. It is all what we planned. We say, okay, if we get to this step and we are still not here, then we need to do this. and we need to do this, and we need to put this into our group consciousness. We need to see this, and we need to start having much more visibility on it. So the key is, look in the mirror. It's time to look in the mirror. It's time to say, how can I fully empower myself? How can I take control of the reins and accept that I am fully powerful, that I am fully part of the oneness, and that we are in control of this. And in doing that, we can say, well, then let's change it and make it better. Let's make it more graceful and easy and have more fun with it. And we can release the drama and the need for the trauma and illness. And yes, we can, once we realize we are fully empowered. So on that, I'm going to let you go. We'll talk to you next week. This is Angela with this week's Living the Shift.